If you're thinking about getting into model railroading or you're already an addict, boy do we have a project for you. In this episode, the hills are alive. Hey, welcome to It's My Railroad, the how-to show for regular people. On this show, we chronicle my never-ending adventures through the hobby of model railroading. I'm just a regular guy, just trying to get her done. So you get to see my techniques, my tips, and all the things I screw up along the way. Having a lot of fun, hanging out here with the community. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. All right, rail fans, let's get into this. This is the second part in a two-part series where we're finally putting the landscaping, all the trees and ground cover, up in the logging camp. If you missed the first one, there's a link above my head, there's a link in the description, just click on it now and you can go get caught up. If you've already seen it, then let's move into what we're gonna do today. Today we stab the trees back in. Today we put some ground cover, more ground cover up on that mountain, and we put all the ground cover down over the tree stumps. Matter of fact, by the time we're done, for the most part, we'll be done with the landscaping, mostly. There's a couple of details we're gonna add later on after we get all the rest of the junk up there in the logging camp. But by the end of today, it's gonna look pretty good. Okay, just before we get into the hobby room, I'd like to invite you to come back and see me here in the studio when the episode's over so we can take a look at what's coming up with life after the logging camp. But other than that, I say we get into the hobby room right now. Anyway, it's my railroad. I decided I want some more color. So what I got here is I got some green blend ground foam from Woodland Scenics. I'm gonna see if I can find a place to tag it in here and there with a smaller brush, and some of the more nakeder areas, more nakeder. So, you know, as most of the things I tell you guys about when I'm working on a model railroad, a lot of it, when it comes to scenery, is just do it till I like it. If I like what comes out, then it's good. If I don't, I just keep going until I get something. But I really love this part. I feel like a railroad artist or something. All right, got the glue on. Now I'm going to just sprinkle this stuff on there because I don't want to go too crazy with it. I don't think we need to. Just adding a little bit more variation in color here. Well, that kind of looks coolio. Well, there you go. There's a whole nother color up there in the mountain now. All right, well, I'm going to, in my naivete, attempt something. I've mixed up some of that glue and water solution because there's something I want to do here that I can't use the brush anymore. So I'm really hoping right here on live TV that this doesn't just screw up everything we just did. So see what happens with a couple of drops. That's not too bad. Because here's what I want to do. Right where I put that glue, I'm going to put a smidge more of this green crap. Like that. And I got this really cool flock and turf. It's called Light Green Fine by Scenic Express. And if we just sprinkle just a smidge on there, it kind of gives almost an illusion of having some kind of flowers or something back there. It kind of brightens it up a little bit, but only in areas. Yeah, that kind of works. And then if we go put the glue back on top, again, By Jove, I think he's got it. Alright, so looking at that, I'm kind of thinking I got the color back that I wanted. It almost looks like a deforested forest on its own, doesn't it? Well, I know you heard me say at the beginning of this whole rebuild that I never glue down my trees. I don't like to glue anything down, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the deal. When I was just stabbing those trees in earlier on, they weren't staying all that great. So in this case, I'm afraid we're going to have to glue them in. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to put a little glue on this paper plate right here, like that. Well, that's not a little glue, is it? Well, hey, we don't do things small around here. Then I'll start with the smaller trees in the back to the degree that I can, and then start putting the medium trees and the larger trees until we put all these trees back in. Take and put a little glue on the tree trunk there and stab it right back in the hole it came out of. Something cool we're going to do, that glue right there, I'm going to throw some stuff on there, maybe some dirt or some ground cover or something that's going to help hide some of this residual plaster or sculpting mold showing through. So I guess the important thing now is to make sure the trees are relatively straight. We put them in and then just keep on going. Just a little pinch of this ground foam sort of kicked in there, start hiding those tree trunks, and then get right down to where they need to be. Yeah, that kind of looks pretty good, I would say. Hey, it's my railroad. See, that's how you do it on the regular guy railroad. You just sort of throw that ground foam back in there, boom, 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 and see what happens. Anyway, that's what happened. Alright folks, well, we're going to take another risk here on national television, and that is I'm going to go ahead and put the glue in down here, sprinkle the potting soil on there, and then run some glue over it, see if we can't actually finish this part out. I'm mostly concerned with these areas here where the dirt didn't take because the dirt didn't want to be cooperative. So anyway, I will start by just laying a little glue down in here. I've never done this before, so this is another opportunity for us to do this together. I decided also to keep the shrubbery, the ground cover, away from the actual rail of the railroad, because I figured they cleared that area and then sort of kept it clean. People walk up and down there, whatever, doing maintenance. This is just sort of a safety thing I'm doing right here with the glue. I don't really know that I absolutely need it because we're going to drizzle some glue on here when we're done, like we've done in other places, and hope for the best. So let's just see if we can just start sprinkling this potting soil on here. Maybe putting it down in the lower areas more, keeping it up off the higher areas for whatever reason. It just seems to make sense. I'm finding that by pinching this and do it with my fingers, some of the bigger pieces don't end up making the cut. They end up just staying in the cup I'm using right now, and I can sort of see the little stuff, which is kind of what I'm trying to get here. It looks kind of debris-ish, but what I think we need to do is sort of level some of that out a little bit. Maybe we can just do it with our finger. Well, that kind of looks like a debris laid waste forest from over here at It's My Railroad headquarters. The next step will be I'm going to dump some of that alcohol on here and dump some glue solution on here, and then we're going to dump a little bit of more stuff on top to kind of make it look a little bit more like we want it to. Okay, as we continue to make things up on the fly, I went ahead and added this this dead tree right here that I'll show you a little bit better later. I think we need to paint it darker. Here's another tree that got hit by lightning or something. I don't know. It's got to be painted darker as well. But a couple of things like that strewn out the forest. That's what I've seen in some photos. Just a couple of random pieces of stuff sticking up in the air. So now what I think I'll do, go through and sprinkle a little bit of green here and there where stuff's maybe growing back in, a little bit of flowers, a little bit of bushes, and then we'll just put a bunch of glue on top of this and see what happens. Why don't we start with our favorite buddy, a little bit of this blended turf, and just here and there. I have to keep saying this because, you know, it's the name of the show, but it's my railroad. So I need to make this look like I want it to look so that when I look at it, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I really dig it. And then I run my trains up here and I feel like a freaking logger dude. You know what I'm gonna try next? I got this stuff I bought. It's like fibrous stuff. Sometimes I make like bulrushes out of it or whatever. I found that if I cut it up like really fine, like as if I was shaving or something and got a haircut, and sprinkle it, it almost looks like pine needles or something, branches that are falling on the ground. So we'll go ahead and do a little bit of that action, whether we like it or not. Well, we got a little too much, whatever. It looks good. Let's put some green in there. Just a little bit. I'm thinking that in this particular scenario, this has started growing back in just a smidge. So here and there we're going to have some shots of green. Just a little bit. Quite frankly, that might be too much, to tell you the truth. I don't know. I kind of like it. And then lastly, I'm a big fan of flowers on the layout. The only thing I got to represent flowers is this light green fine foam from Scenic Express, but I think it really looks good. We just dab a little bit on here and there. And that color looks like something might be blooming there. So the forest is already recovering from mankind's slaughter of its trees. Lastly, we'll add a couple of bushes in here and there. Little thickets. These may or may not have survived the wholesale slaughter of the forest, but we'll just say they did to add some color. Boy, I sure hope that looks as good when it dries as it looks right now. I am stoked by my new logging camp. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and just take a chance and start drizzling alcohol on all of this so that we can start covering it with glue that will mix down with the water. So got all the alcohol on, now it's time for the glue. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the glue around these tree trunks but not on top of them, because glue on a tree trunk means I can't paint it later, or at least I can't stain it later. I can paint it. So we're just going to try to let the glue get around those tree trunks down into the styrofoam of the Sculptamold so that they will stay in place throughout eternity. Okay, all the glue's on. Make sure our tree trunks are straight to the naked eye. Kind of want them as straight as we can get them. All right, let's let that dry, and then we'll come back and give sort of a an overview of how this went. And we're back in the studio. Yes, I gotta tell you, I love the way this thing looks. I'm not certain it looks as good on video as it does in person, but again, it's my railroad, so when I look at it and I go, yes, I can't wait to run logging loads up there. That's kind of all that matters, to me anyway. I may not win any awards as a master model builder, but hopefully so far you've been able to pick something up, at least the way the regular guy does it, and it's been a ton of fun. Next, we're gonna go through and we're gonna make the log loading ramp and some of the other features. Gonna finish decorating that camp, and then when we're all done, I'm gonna put some extra little details in there just to tie it all together. Oh, I think within like 3 weeks or so, we will be done with the logging camp. Okay, we'll never be done with anything on the Brown Smith Railroad, but we'll be close. So life after the logging camp, what's that look like? Well, here's the deal. First thing I want to do is I want to put a new backdrop on this sucker. I've been talking about that, right? Tear the paper one down, throw it in the garbage, Kobe, and then go ahead and make like a hardwood one or something. Some of you guys have suggested what we can do. This is an excellent time to continue that discussion. Tell old regular Steve here, how are we going to put in a new backdrop? I've also been watching railroad layout plans. The channel link is above my head, description below. This fun guy is making structures from printed out buildings, and I kind of like some of it relative to making some flats or something down around Brownsville, maybe, I don't know. It just is a cool thing that I think we're gonna try. And then once that stuff's kind of done, I have plans to go finish the Port Smith. Never poured the water down in the river. Want to pour the water. We're going to take a look at doing that. So that's what's coming. Life after the logging camp. And so there you go. Hey, thanks again for joining us. If you haven't already, just consider subscribing down there. Make sure you like and share the video with somebody. Don't forget to connect with us on Facebook. And until next time, my name is Steve Brown, and rail on, my friends.